Facilities that make this program possible are provided by the City of Highland Park and have been made possible in part by Ravinia Festival, CJE Senior Life, GAN Music and Sound.
Hello, and welcome to Cahnmann's Current Events Roundtable. Today, I want to welcome back two men that I have had several times on my show, and they're always there to discuss politics. And besides that, we have the second Wednesday of every month at the Highwood Library. These two young men come and we discuss politics the second Wednesday of every month at 10:30 in the morning, along with maybe about 15, 20 other people. We have Democrats, Republicans, Independents, and everything above and below, right? And so I want to welcome back, first of all, I want to welcome back Alan Minoff.
Glad to be here, Suzanne.
Thank you for coming. And Bert Osayev.
A pleasure.
Always welcome. It's always a pleasure to have both of you on the show. I just want to start with Alan, and the reason I'm starting with Alan is because Alan just came back from an economics club meeting of Chicago, which featured Chris Christie, the man that is now, every station is carrying Chris Christie, and what has happened with the Bridgegate, we call it Bridgegate. And according to CNN's Jake Tapper, he admits that Christie's scandal is getting more coverage than Benghazi scandal. And maybe, Alan, you could tell me a little bit about why, and then we'll talk a little bit about what you heard at the Economics Club. And we all heard the Economics Club lecture because you sent us a link to it.
It's available online to anybody who would like to see it at the Economic Club of Chicago website.
It was a very good taping. But why, according to Jake Tapper, why is the scandal, and it's called Bridgegate, all that happened was for 3 days. Here, we could talk to Rahm Emanuel and say to him that every Friday and Saturday night, he doesn't open the express lanes. We get stuck in 2-hour traffic trying to get into the city. Nobody says anything. Nobody complains about it. And we're stuck, year after year with Rahm Emanuel. Then it was the Mayor Daley, and then it was the first Mayor Daley, the second Mayor Daley. all the Daleys. And here we are stuck in our traffic. And the big deal was a 3-day situation that it was alleged, because we don't even know if he did it or not. And why is it getting so much coverage?
Well, the format of the presentation was not a speech. Governor Christie came up and he answered questions from a designated questioner who was a business executive for about 55 minutes. And about 2 or 3 questions in, almost right away, all the questions were hardball. He asked them about the situation where the bridge, one of the lanes in the bridge was closed for a few days. And Christie's response, and I'm paraphrasing, please watch the tape for the exact quote, but he said, the wonderful thing about organizations that make them operate so well is they're composed of people with all their brilliant ideas and things that they want to do, and the difficult thing about organizations is they're composed of people who sometimes don't do the right thing. And he said, when he heard what had happened, he was very disappointed. He felt sorry for himself for 10 minutes, and then he went out and took action, and the people who were responsible were relieved right away. They are were instantly relieved of their responsibilities.
So why is it getting so much attention?
Oh, that's very easy to figure out. I think that polls, although it's quite early, we're 2.5 years from the next presidential election, polls have revealed that Governor Christie might be the most threatening candidate to the anointed Messiah 2, the Messiah 1 having crashed and burned pretty much, the anointed Messiah 2, Hillary Clinton, and therefore the press, who gets their most of the press, who gets their marching orders, apparently from the Democratic National Committee PR arm, will do anything to impugn Governor Christie's motives or actions, even though he's been an extremely effective governor in New Jersey, working with a Democratic-controlled legislature.
What do you think, Bert?
Well, I don't think there's any question about it. Christie is a progressive Republican who has the Democrats in New Jersey where he wants them. They love him there. He's the most popular governor they've had in a long time.
And he works against the Democratic
He meets with the
Party.
Democrats. He works with the Democrats in New Jersey. He has good relations with all the Democratic organizations there. And unfortunately, the National Democratic Party is very nervous about this because they haven't had a really progressive Republican come forward in a long time. Because he's not a typical conservative that we've seen in Congress over the last few years. He's a super good guy. Mm-hmm. He's a nice person. Everybody likes him. And, he's a real threat to their 2016 campaigns.
So he's right now the only person that can possibly be on equal footing or even ahead of Mrs. Clinton.
Oh, I don't think there's any question about it. I was mentioned earlier today that yesterday in the Wall Street Journal, there was an article about the National Governors Conference in Washington this past weekend. And the interesting thing about the article in the Journal is no mention was made of Christie in the National Governors Conference.
Of which he's the chairman.
Yeah,
and
right.
He's the chairman of
right.
the
But there was
National
no mention in the article. They did mention, I think, every other Republican governor in the country that have indicated they may be interested in running for president. They even mentioned a couple Democrats. But he's there, and he's going to be there. And when eventually this Bridgegate is going to disappear. It's already slowly disappearing, except on MSNBC, as we talked about.
Oh yeah, one of the stations carry it day in and day out, and I mean they don't let it go, and it's kind of getting redundant. And
their audience, the audience at MSNBC measured in double digits too. They love it, and they'll keep broadcasting it every day for many, many, many years.
I was kind of impressed by the some of the things that he is doing in New Jersey, and one was teacher tenure reform, getting rid of some of these bad teachers that are there year after year after year. And we have the same thing in Illinois. I would like to see that happen in Illinois, where you get that same teacher that she's not showing any, her ways of teaching are kind of old hat, and they stay in the job because they have tenure. And this tenure reform, I think, is a really good idea. Do you have any ideas about tenure and what you think about it?
Well, I think that clearly Governor Christie and others see education as an absolutely critical issue because particularly when the watchword of the moment seems to be inequality, whether of income or opportunity, and Governor Christie, stressed opportunity. The way to bring about opportunity equality is good education, and that's especially critical for the lower end of the socioeconomic scale. Mm-hmm. And the public education in this country is well funded and is almost completely controlled by the teachers' unions. And they don't want any changes except more money for the teachers and no evaluation of the teachers. They're very concerned about evaluation of the teachers. In real life, i.e. not in the public employee unions, people perform their jobs. If they do a good job, they get promoted. If they do a poor job and after counseling they don't improve, they find something else to do. But that's not how it works in public education. Mm-hmm. And the unions hate the idea of evaluating their performance. And Governor Christie has changed that in New Jersey. And he hopes to, New Jersey has a large disadvantaged population, and he hopes to improve the situation there.
Isn't that what Scott Walker kind of did in
It's
Wisconsin?
exactly what Scott Walker did in Wisconsin.
I hope that Rahm Emanuel will get on board on this. I know he's going to, I know for the Chicago Public Schools, he's going to extend the time, which we need badly. I mean, kids get out of school at 2 o'clock, they get there at 9 o'clock or 8:30.
Shortest school day in the country.
It's terrible. And according to my record here, I think this is it. We're 24th around the world. We're 24th rated in U.S. students in math in the world, 24th, and 14 in reading. And if you want some change in the United States and change, you need to get the kids on board. You're never going to get change in government with kids that can't read and can't add.
That's a very misleading statistic, Suzanne, because that encompasses the entire body of students in the United States. And if you slice that by demographic, whether it's income or income demographic, for example, what creates that low rating relative to all the countries in the world is the underclass and the lower class students do not very well. And if you did the middle class and upper class students from an economic point of view, almost irregardless of other factors, be it ethnic origin or race or religion or anything else, it's the students from the lower economic classes which pull all that down. In fact, when you go higher up on the income scale, our students are competitive with any country in the world. So the problem is not in education as a whole, it's in the education of the lower class and the underclass.
So what do you do about it?
Well, in the public schools in Chicago, as an example, the teachers' union wields a very heavy hammer, and it's extremely difficult to get anywhere in the Chicago public school system with the teachers' union doing what they're doing, and it's caused any number of problems. They're fighting charter schools, as an example. Charter schools could be a boon to the Chicago public school system because it would give them an opportunity to hire teachers to raise the level of academics in the public schools at the charter school level and to show that the kids can do it. But the teachers union is fighting it. They're afraid of the charter schools because the charter schools are basically non-union. And the teachers union doesn't want it. And so it's really going to be quite a battle to see which way it's going to happen in Chicago. Unfortunately, it's slowly moving throughout the United States. It's not just a Chicago problem anymore.
So do you think by getting rid of the teachers union, it'll open up more for charter schools and better school system? What do you think about that?
Well, I think that there's no question in my mind that the teachers union is holding back a great deal of progress in public education. Not saying that it's all bad. The teachers union had a purpose. They've accomplished much of what they wanted to accomplish, but it gets to be a point that you can stop accomplishing, and it starts to become a drag on this public school system, financially, educationally, and in all forms.
Monopolies don't operate efficiently. And when you give the teachers union a monopoly on the offering of public education, they don't perform very well. Let other people, whether it's charter schools particularly, operate in competition. Let the parents decide what's best for their children, particularly in failing public schools. Let them have the opportunity to take their children out of the failing public schools into a charter school and see how they do, and they perform much better. It's not an issue of funding. In Washington, D.C., where the schools are the enormously funded public schools, they don't perform very well there either, because the problem is the monopoly that the teachers unions hold over public education.
So do you think that Rahm Emanuel is on board on this? I think it sounds like he's trying to get away from some of the unions too.
I'm not intimately familiar with the situation in Chicago, but one of the largest contributors to the Democratic Party is the National Teachers Union. And people, you dance with the guy who brung you, as they say in the dance, and the Democratic Party dances with the teachers union.
No question about it. The IEA, Illinois Education Association, the NEA, National Education Association, are all heavy contributors to the Democratic Party, and that's where it's at.
One of the things that I heard in his economic presentation was that the Republican Party needs to win elections, and the priority should be on winning the election, not on arguing. And if you want to govern, only then can you make a change. What do you feel what's going on with the Republican Party? I know that during the the Republican, when we had the
primaries
in 2012, and each one was putting down each other. And it got to the point where no wonder no one won on the Republican Party. Everybody seemed so angry, and they weren't working together as a team. And one thing I see about the Democratic Party, no matter who the person is, if you like them or if you don't like them, if they're a good person, bad person, if they're on board or not on board, everyone gets behind that person. What is going to change for the Republican Party? I know you're in. I know some of the groups that you're in, and I know one of the groups that you're in is a Republican.
Well, Governor Christie pointed out that political parties are not mentioned in the Constitution, but they were formed very early in the Republic in order to win elections. And he feels strongly that political parties are not debating societies, not created for ideological purity. They are to win elections. Clearly, in 2014, the Senate is up for grabs, and it will be seen how many and Democrats have a difficult time because the big wave in 2008 is now 6 years on, and those people are all running again for Senate. Last time, there were some seats that the Republicans should have taken where poorly candidates who presented very poorly were put up in the Republican primary, and they lost. And his hope is that this time the focus will be on winning, and that the Republican primary voters will pick the candidate who has not only the best message but the best chance of winning.
Yeah, I think that the Republicans have to get back on track in terms of they have to get away from antagonizing minorities, women, anybody that normally is a little bit to the left of where the party is. And unfortunately, the Republicans have had one platform and one program for some time now, and that's first of all, it was to defeat Obama one term only. Well, that failed. Now it's to stop him from doing anything. And they can't be this negative factor in Congress. And they're turning everybody off slowly but surely. Hopefully, this will change for them, and they'll have an opportunity to come in and compete in the election and to do something and maybe get back on track. But I think the party has gotten off track. They're so caught up in trying to make Obama look bad, unfortunately.
Well, I might respectfully disagree with at least some of the thoughts there. That's very much the line of the mainstream press. All three major networks, most major newspapers, all of whom say, oh, the Republicans have a war on women and they don't like minorities. Whereas, in fact, under President Obama's administration, the very groups who the Democrats claim are the victims of Republican wrongdoing, where the Democrats were completely in control for the first 2 years and have been in control of the Senate for the entire time, and of course the White House since 2008. Women and minorities have fared the worst under the economic policies of President Obama. And I think that's a Democratic PR line. I don't buy it. I don't think it's true. And I think the Republicans do have the disadvantage of always running against the majority of both the televised and print media.
The only thing that I saw that kind of bothered me during when Chris Christie came to Illinois, and he's chairman of the Republican Committee of Governors, right?
He's chairman of the Republican, the entire Governors Association.
The entire,
all 50 of them.
National governors.
National governors.
All
Okay.
50 belong.
Okay, and the people that are running against Quinn. All the Republicans
Yes.
were not. They when asked if they were coming to it, they weren't sure. One said he wasn't sure. One said he may have to go to Springfield. One said this and one said that. I think one did come.
Bruce Rauner
was there, but he was one of the people also that said he was maybe going to Springfield, and he met with the governor later. But it didn't get into the newspaper until afterwards that he was there. Why were they hiding away? Because of this Bridgegate thing, which was absolutely ridiculous.
I don't think Bridgegate had anything to do with it. First of all, this was the Economic Club of Chicago is a members-only organization. The only way you could come to that meeting is either you were a member or you were invited by a member. I do not know if any of the four people running for governor are members of the Economic Club. So maybe they were invited and maybe they weren't. There was no introduction of anybody else in the audience except Governor Christie. So maybe other politicians of either party were there. Nobody was introduced. So I think that was spun as, several of the candidates didn't come because they didn't want to be seen with Christie. That wasn't their day. It was Governor Christie taking Q&A for 55 minutes. He started, he was introduced, took Q&A, he was thanked, and the meeting was over. So there was no role for any of the other gubernatorial candidates.
That's what I think about the Republican Party. They need to stand by their person, their man, and by, even if there's a doubt or something, they need to stand by each other. Talking about standing by, what's happening that, and I know you guys probably do a lot of reading, what's happening on the governor's race, which is going to be in
March 18th is the primary.
Okay.
In the Republican Party, there is no primary for governor, because Governor Quinn is unopposed in the Democratic Party.
Okay. So what's going to happen in this race? What is your view? What is your predictions? Because we don't know.
I think Roder has got it locked up at this point. He's just pumped another $1 million into his campaign, which brings his total, I think, to $5 million now of his own money that he's put into his campaign. And I don't see any of the other candidates even coming close in terms of advertising, in terms of just campaigning. I think he's kind of got it locked up at this point.
In the Republican Party, but what do you think about if he ran against Governor Quinn? What do you think his chances are going to be?
Well, in Illinois, it's hard to say. Illinois can go either way, the way it's done in the past. But I think that he has a good opportunity to beat Quinn, and we'd have a Republican governor in Illinois.
What's wrong with Quinn?
Well, Illinois is a disaster. The Illinois economy is in terrible shape. Its unemployment rate is one of the very highest in the country. And it's not the weather. You look at the surrounding states, Indiana, Wisconsin, Iowa, Michigan, they're doing much, much better. And they have the same wonderful weather we do. And the difference is the attitude towards government. Illinois is very difficult with respect to unemployment insurance, with respect to tort claims.
And taxes.
And taxes are the corporate income tax, the state corporate income tax is one of the very highest.
Well, how do they get away?
Companies are leaving all the time. They don't get away with it.
But Al, how do they, like Texas and Florida, people are leaving, and to Arizona. We have friends that are moving because they were paying for their property taxes. They were paying $12,000 for their condo here, and in Arizona, they're going to pay $800. And how do they do that with the schools and everything?
How does Illinois get away with it?
Yeah, I don't understand.
Because Illinois is a very blue state. The local media is very blue. Who's the point? Mike Madigan's controlled the legislature for 40 years. Nothing is going to change in Illinois. There are reliable Democratic voters, particularly in Chicago. Remember, Governor Quinn only carried 2 of 102 counties. That's all he needed. And that's maybe if he may win again with just those same 2 counties. So people in Illinois don't seem to be interested in facing reality. And as the jobs drain away, people with investments, they don't choose to invest here. The CEO of Caterpillar spoke to the Economic Club last year. And they're looking to make a major new investment in a plant. And he said, we're looking at 49 states. And the one state we're not looking at is Illinois because it is impossible to make a successful investment here.
Yeah, I think that what we've seen is that you've got Indiana, Wisconsin, all the surrounding states are attracting industry and business from Illinois because they're offering them lower taxes, better environment for their families, cheaper housing, lots of other things that they can't get here in Illinois. And that's what it's all about. Illinois has got to get their act together. And if it takes a change of governor, and if a new governor can do it, fine. But with Madigan still controlling the legislature in Illinois, it's going to be very difficult. Very
Why
difficult.
Why did they keep that guy? I mean, he's destroying.
Because
he's destroying the city. He's destroying everything.
He terrifies all the Democratic members of the legislature, which had a supermajority or may still have a supermajority. They're all afraid of him because he controls all the assignments. And the state of Illinois is being run for the benefit of the public employees and the public employee unions, not the people of Illinois. And the consequences are, as Bert pointed out, jobs are leaving, investments leaving. Everybody, all the companies that could invest here don't. The ones that are stuck here, many are leaving. And the state continues to slide down into the alleged pension reform was a Band-Aid on a severed artery. Not going to really help the situation, reduce the amount that employees pay to their pensions, and it continues to be an enormous burden on the future taxpayers of Illinois, which the legislature won't address.
Well, how does the schools maintain itself without the property? I mean, I was trying to think of how does Texas, Arizona, and Florida, how do they do that and keep up their school system? And I don't.
Many of these states are very light union states. The unions are not as strong in many of the states as they are here in Illinois. Texas, the western states, the unions are not as heavy, not as strong, and they don't get all of the benefits that the unions do here. And I think that's part of the problem.
So you say it's contributed to unions. That's what
a good portion of it.
A good portion of it is union organization. And so in Wisconsin, what they're doing, how are they getting rid of the union?
Governor Walker changed the law over the enormous opposition of the public employees unions the legislatures fled to Illinois for a while. They finally went back. They had days and days of demonstrations in the state capitol, but the law passed anyway, making the payment of union dues voluntary. And most of the union dues went away. The public employees won't pay the dues because they don't see the value they're getting. It was just for the benefit of the union leaders.
So the unions did something years ago. Supposedly it was there for unfair